Tell me is love.
Okay, I am now talking from the, I'm going to say the front side of the mic. No, let's say the back, because the front side is the side with the screen. Yes, the front side of the microphone is the side with the screen. So right now I am sitting on the back side of the microphone. Testing. Does the thing blink when I talk like this? Yeah, okay. Right when I get a little loud, I don't think we're going to get very loud. I think this is probably a pretty good volume right over here. Now I'm going to walk over the other side of the table and see from over there what it's like. And I think that this is just going to, we're next to a road and we're next to the beach, all these sorts of things. And I think that's just going to be a part of what's, I don't mean everything means something. Everything means something. And okay, now I'm on the front side of this microphone, and still testing. I don't think I need to really test much anymore. I can hear myself, and I think anybody listening to this will probably be able to hear my voice and my very first podcast guest voice as well once he arrives. Once they arrive. It's I guess I'm just doing this now. Maybe this will just be like an intro or something to this episode of whatever I'll call this thing. But it's been a long time in the process of there's gonna be a bit of that that sorts of sounds throughout at least this particular episode, because of where I chose to do this at, the location, which can talk about once our guest arrives. So apologies for the car sounds, and hopefully once they chill out a little bit, you can hear the little birds and the kids playing, the waves and the beach and stuff in the background. I'm just really grateful, really grateful to be here and to be able to be doing this right now. I really recognize how meaningful it is to be able to do this, to be able to have access to technology and equipment and resources like microphones and headphones and computers and all that sort of stuff that can allow my voice and the voices of others to be heard by people who just aren't here right now, whether it's here geographically, physically, or temporally, and time, and just, this is a wild thing to be doing. At least I think so. I think this is crazy. Is being able to talk into this microphone here, and with a little bit of work and editing and stitching of files and all that sort of nonsense, it can be heard, and not just my voice or the voices of those who I may speak with, but the ideas and the feelings that come through, that are carried along and expressed by the words. I don't think there are words to describe how really special it is that this is just a possibility. And for that I am grateful, and I'm grateful to you, whoever you may be, listening to me yammer on, and I appreciate you, and I love you, and thanks for listening. And I really want to, one thing that I've thought about for a long time, I've thought about trying to do a podcast, and I recognize that's the tone that I just said that in is me, my own strange judgments, so with this podcast experiment, it's been something cooking in my mind for years now, maybe almost 4 years now. And one of the things that I really want to try to do with this medium of expression is to try to open up myself, and not myself as in me and the being, but let me try to rephrase that. An intention that I want to bring through and with this experiment in expression is to potentially open some sort of conduit or nexus point for ideas and for growth. And what that looks like will probably shift and change. I think what I'm going to do once I make this available for anybody else to hear, right now I'm just going to do whatever I can. I don't have what I need to make a website and to host it just as the file, so I'm just going to do what I can to make this like a YouTube video or something like that, just so it can be heard. But when that happens, I'm gonna have like an email address, kind of, just I'll put that out along with this file, so that anybody listening that has any thoughts or ideas or information, because I don't know what I'm talking about at all. I'm just this is all, I'm just one person, that has their own unique experience, and that's that, and I can speak on that, but that is not the truth. Whether maybe my truth, I may be able to describe something that happened really well, but it's really a collaboration, the understanding and the growth. It's a collaboration, and through this, I want to open up. I want to attempt to open up some sort of portal for that. And so if I say something that's wrong, or has something that's to be added to, or that inspires some ideas or anything, I'm gonna open open like a digital channel to be able to receive messages in that way, so that those ideas and thoughts and corrections, or whatever they may be, can be then talked about and thought about in further episodes. And yeah, we're all here together. We're all trying to grow, and we're all trying to love and feel good, and be supportive and be supported. And yeah, I'm just trying to find ways to do that, and I think this could be an interesting experiment. So again, thank you. I'm grateful for you, whoever you may be listening to this right now. I would introduce my guests, but they're not here yet, so I'll just introduce them once they arrive, and then we'll just talk, see what happens. So thanks. Might as well.
Well, let's see. We could just have it going.
So how'd you like to be introduced?
How would I like to be introduced?
Yes. That's
how would I deduce how I would like to be?
Yeah, it's not up to me to equate.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, because we're beaming out to others.
To potentially any
to anybody, anywhere, all across.
Anybody,
so
anywhere.
How do I want them to know me? And
who are you?
Who am I?
Yes, who are you?
That's a very deep question. Is that what I didn't realize that we were gonna have such an existential in-depth.
You know what I want to call this thing, right? This weird spaceship.
The weird space, the controlled by the fates, the spaceship of moving destiny.
Exactly. We'll roll with that. Almost like embarking out in the
spaceship without walls,
the cosmic seas,
without destination,
without time too. That's
top nor bottom, up or down, left or right,
inside and out,
mm-hmm.
light and dark.
So yeah, who am I? That could be the question. Is that the question? Who am I? I think I could be anyone. It's one of my great poem by Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche. I can't remember most of it. I only remember a little bit, but the part that was important to me is like, and there's like this great, like kind of atmospheric, ambient music in the background. And he's like, but he says, he's like, who am I? Who am I? I am no one. I could be anyone. And so I guess that is the process of defining ourselves, and right? Do
you think that's something that we have to do?
Who are we? Well, I mean, together And it's like people do it for you
Yeah,
sometimes.
right.
Someone
Right.
will do it for you from the outside. It's like, do we have to believe the way that they do it for you? But sometimes it's easier, you know? It's like,
Well, would that be something?
I mean, if I wanted an infinite name, I could be, you know, you know, integral pi 1 7, and you just add anything, any sort of verbal denunciation, any sort of sign. We could add I Ching characters to it. Why not? Let's draw some runes on it and just have that my whole name. So that would make it a little difficult for someone. I mean, that's why we have nicknames, I guess. Shorten it. Sometimes people just shorten it to one letter, so I guess, yeah. But going into the media world and into that, into my public face, it's I'll be referred to, if you find me on the interwebs and performing and you're not really a close homie, you could find me as Lord Princess. It'd be easy.
Okay. Well, welcome, Lord Princess, to whatever this is.
This is our kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's kind of cool. It's really interesting. Already just
Kingdom.
so many thoughts. Yeah, because if somebody else like defines you, then like could defining yourself be some sort of way to like counteract that?
Well, I mean, it depends who's defining you and under what situation and your relationship to them. And
does it even matter?
yeah, no, it does. Yeah, sometimes. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Let's be real. Let's say, okay, let's say you and me we know each other in some, and we're conversing here, and we made a friendly agreement to do this. So you could be like, well, yeah, I think you're, whatever,
Yeah.
and I could feel whatever I want about it. But if you're a police officer, it might feel a little different if, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
and even if I haven't even quite done anything wrong, but if I look like I'm being identified as having done something wrong, and, if someone's got a gun and they're identifying you as something wrong, and then, your significant other is doing that could be difficult too, and then that keep going back and forth, or
Yeah.
if, and then yourself, if you think you have to fulfill, I mean, sometimes we do. Someone's a father 1 minute, It's like, am I poor? Am I, I mean, and then how someone defines, but I think as things get fixed,
Right,
that's the issue. It's like, I mean, there are certain things, you may appear a certain age, or we define our laws certain ways. We drive down these roads, it gives us an identity. They built it, or the oak trees built it first. And then the natives worked along it, the indigenous people worked along it, and we've been trampling all on it, dancing around all crazy and blooding it up. But we moved so that provides a space for where someone is in their identity. But I think sometimes with the, within our age, maybe where we're at, because we're, staring at our screen so much and we're more isolated. Like, identity gets reflected upon us so many times and refracted out in so many directions that it's like we're
So how much of an identity one is like an expression of how you feel in a moment? If we're measuring identity based on
right.
how some external thing.
What is even the etymology of the word? Because there's like identity politics is a thing, but what is the identity? What is the etymology
identity
of that word?
That's a good question.
I'm kind of curious. I'm gonna look it up. I'm like, I don't have this, for idiom from the same, and identitas from the Latin. So quality of being identical. Identity is sameness.
So like a reflection.
So I mean, it is focusing. So I guess identity, is more of a tilt to sameness as opposed to otherness. And he's a philosopher I've been reading a lot. I'm probably gonna butcher his name, Jung-Chul Han. And there's a book of his I was reading recently, The Agony of Eros, and it said because of our excess positivity in this culture where we're just branding ourselves, we're all entrepreneurs of ourselves constantly, and we're anxious and we're burnt out and we're and even in terms of love, in terms of how we relate to each other, it's more absent from a world where that's become almost like, because you could get, you could decide on a dating app, what sort of variables you want, what sort of limitations you want on a partner, and we're getting more picky, pickier and pickier, so that just like our phone, whatever I'm doing or what I'm wearing now, it knows what I'm wearing, it's going to reflect back to me the same, back to me, from that Latin idem, same. And I think with this philosopher, I could be wrong. What I gleaned from it is, and it was, we're a little scared of that otherness. And that's what we have when we identify to, because the otherness, I think, is out there, but it's in us. It's in us too. But that's the thing. That's what he was saying. Love really is an encounter with otherness.
Well, that makes me think about like the fixation aspect of that you talked about, because it's like without the fluidity, like.
Right.
Or rather, the recognition of the fluidity, and then you get caught.
I mean, it's so easy though, isn't it? Like, cause look, there's like you start to like we're in one place and you get in a habit of going to one place, and we have choices, but we still got at least here we all go to the grocery store for now, unless the grid is falling down and you can't go in the grocery store. I've experienced that in the fires. It's like, well, we're gonna go down there, and what's gonna be on the shelf? I don't know what's going on. Love to y'all in Texas. I know that's gotta be hard right now. So I'll change how you think about yourself, but then it's how we use identity. And like I said, when you're in these platforms that were used on these, I don't even want to name any of them, but there's little room for elaborate dissent. There's little room for a simple identity. Becomes like a brand. We have to be our own brand. It's like simply like a logo, or it's like boom, and that's what people will see and immediately have feelings, a whole set of ideas based off of that one symbol, off of that one.
Like if you're on a particular stage, like through a particular medium,
right?
It's just like a filter essentially, but a filter as like a stage of expression, but only through XYZ parameters, and so like that can't fully encompass the entirety of any one being, but it's like what we get to see in some sort of sense. And that's, I think, where some of like the attachment to, for speaking for myself, being like, oh, well, okay, so I can see that like aspect of myself in that space. Yeah. So then like, okay, well then that, and then it almost gets like weirdly like, yeah, like attached to, or like some sort of like, it's almost like a thorn, like a little thorn that gets in there, but like an identity, thorn.
Or, do you feel like there's spaces that, certain type of spaces or social relationships or situations that hold you more in that, or other ones that open it up in a way, or other ones where you feel it's questioned, it's like, yeah. I think we all like go through some sort of aspect of that now, and so, but then, it's like kind of, but then we also like, we I think there is something, maybe it's like Judith Butler said, something performative. She was talking about, let's say, gender, but it could be anything. If you want to appear, like an 80s b-boy, and I got my Adidas on, and I got my chain, or I got my Kangol, right? And that's but hey, it's all tied up in commodities and in market in our society, and how we identify. You go into school, it's like you could be judged by what sort of clothes you have. That's why they have school uniforms in some places, because you can't distinguish even between, I remember being younger, and some kids would have the Guess, and I'd have, whatever the it's not dollar store, it's not quite even, it wasn't Walmart then, there's a place called Caldors. Or it's like Rainbow, and so I had these multicolored pants, but some of the other kids would know, so it'd be like a designation. Right, so the way we wear things is like a designation. Hey, I got tactical gear on, watch out, I got you. If it looks like it, maybe or I'm ready. It says something. Or, hey, I ride a bike, but, usually you use it for a function, too. And then people will see that. You see that person going down on the bike. That might be the doctor. That might be someone else. That might be, who knows, whatever's in anybody's phantasmagoria, right now. You could imagine. That's the rapist. That's the pedophile.
Yeah.
Or you could think of something beautiful, too. It's like, oh, that's a person who, well, you could just think a normal person. That's a person who took a poop today. I don't know.
Yeah.
You could think all sorts of things, but they're in that thing, and they're wearing and in a function that isn't even entirely own. We're kind of like thrown into the pinball machine sometimes.
Yeah. And like, are you that? I'm the person who pooped today, like every day. But
Well, that's something of the same. We could all identify with that.
But is that what you carry and present? Because like.
Well,
that
depends how easy that process was for you. Or maybe you let it go too much. It's like, I'm not sure.
Well, so if we're on so if we're all just kind of pretending,
yeah,
like essentially just pretending this whole time, in one way or another, just for the sake of being able to interact with another human at all, we're kind of like having to dance and do this thing, if we really dive into it physiologically, what that is, it's like an internal dance to say words and to make these shapes of the sounds and stuff. So if we're just in that thing all the time, then like, I don't know, that's kind of empowering, because then we can see what aspects of like our lives, as we experience them and live them, through as we acknowledge that that's like a flowing thing, and see aspects to maybe like accentuate or have. I mean, in my life, it's just been like natural things, like with music and stuff. It's just kind of like I just naturally spend more time in this space, as me than others, another space, which that space is I guess attributed to like doing something in particular, like riding a bicycle. It's like, is that a bicyclist, or is that somebody who just so happens to be riding a bicycle right now? And
well, yeah, I mean, I guess I was thinking in terms of, identifying from the outside. And that's the thing, you're talking about something like music. So something like music, or even something like, I'm a musician, and improvising. I mean, I think in a way we go into a part of our brain active that isn't identifying, at a certain point. When we get into duende, when we're really linked in, I mean, there's studies where you could, brain waves are matching up between players, and the part of your brain that kind of judges and does that identifying, that judgment part, that identitarian
like
part, the medial prefrontal cortex goes off during improvisation.
Yeah, right.
And so I don't know. Then we're moving into an aspect of our lived being, of our pluripresence. So identification has to do with marks and the beginning of the tool of symbolic language, I think, in a sense. Like the original I Ching or runes or something like that. I was saying earlier. It's like a mark across it. We wear these marks across the bodies. Like I'm wearing clothes, right? My clothes are androgynous, so they make a mark and they confuse symbols. It's like, because those are symbols that are moving through things. So it has a power, it has a magic. And in that flux, by having, in that flux, you kind of, a friend of mine was saying yesterday, I could have a little bit of a bird's eye view and play, and yet, it's like another philosopher, Guy Deleuze, and his logic of sense. Now, again, I'm trying to, this is at the best of my level of understanding this. He thought, most of language was like a smooth surface. It's this smooth surface, right? Identity, it's this thing that we could work across. We could put these letters together and move them across, right? We could use mathematics. It's smooth. But then, like you were saying, we're playing music, we're improvising, and he would say, under that smooth surface, right? Imagine a plane in space. Underneath, right? So let's just have three planes, almost like the traditional Chinese cosmology, right? Or one of them, you have these three planes. So you have this middle where this language is. Maybe that's like man. You got this language level and this communication and these symbols, which written language has done so much. And I also think any sort of coding qualifies as these symbols.
Mm-hmm.
So now our new technology and what we're moving through actually has this very minute, very quick moving language, and is cutting across us in the same symbolic ways. I mean, literally and figuratively. But below that level are all the eruptions, is your spine, right? Is that thing about, joking about, defecation, but, the difficulties with that, your desires, everything, our species urge to preserve our biological identities. I'm sure we have genetic memory from whatever our ancestors did. It's just, we've done all sorts of things. Yeah. And then we have above this language, sometimes we have our lofty ideals, our area of the gods. And so these things are, and so how people choose to identify and through what lens and what limits that identity can be understood, those ideals affect things, but we can't pretend that, our impulses, that we also do not get overtaken by emotionally potent oversimplifications. Every one of us at points.
It's so easy for that to happen.
Well, we get charged, like if something happened to it at some point. We were a little baby, you come out, so you scream and then they listen, or you try and look cute and they listen.
Yeah. Or they
We're still doing it. Or they don't, and exactly, and then that's gonna,
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe in lifetimes before, maybe we did that before, and then everything your daddy did, everything around that. Think all the times you just felt exhilarated, had a wonderful time. Time is flying. Other times it's moving slow. Other times you're just crying and cursing, and you don't even know what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, but can't.
How do you identify then? Who's that? You don't want to. Nobody wants. That's not me. That's not me.
But that's the dance. That's the dance that we're all kind of forced into in this space, because a baby doesn't think about fucking crying. It's just like, or like laughing or smiling or something, that that's just what happens,
Right.
And so then as we age and the conditions in which we have to go through.
The baby can't identify in that same way because we're using a discourse and a structure of language. Based off of sameness and other
parameters
difference.
And ridges and stuff.
Right, just like it's in the most simple ways, it's like 0 and 1, right? It's the same. Or you have on the I Ching, you just have the straight line for yang, and then, and then a broken line for the yin. It's that beginning of differentiation in a symbol. Or counting. Or the baby is just like, the baby's all spine and gut, and but it's the potential's there though. So that's the interesting thing.
Is that like a protection thing, like a filtering thing? Because if you have, instead of crying or being overcome with joy, if you have yes or no in this conceptual form, is that a way to, in some sense, separate yourself from something, before you have to interact with the entire world,
like a defense mechanism?
As the whole, in a sense, that personal bubble thing that they tell you about as a kid, but it's not that in just the physical sense, but in so I mean,
but what if the crying itself is a no?
But it is, But as the defense mechanism aspect of that is to prevent that from being how what's going on at any given moment, and then that's where a lot of the trickiness comes in, because then you can't know for sure how something's going to really make you feel or not. But if you go about your day-to-day life in the fluidity of that, being yes, no, before you let yourself get to the point of laughter, of feeling whichever way, and then going from there, then maybe that I think could be a huge aspect in a lot of the muddiness and the identification and the self-identification, sort of realm, because that in itself is separating us from our experiences. It puts us a step back. It's like we're holding a shield or something.
Right. I mean, there's a certain rigidity, and everyone is defending their citadel. I've been using this example in my mind. I hold my phone up to myself, right, and it's feeding me all the things I want, right? Like I said, I went to a friend's house So if I look at a dress that day and I went to my friend's house and my friend has money, I automatically get sold to me how to gold dig for someone. I don't remember the name of the site. Okay, it knows what I'm wearing that day. If I wore my flannel, it's grunge fashion on one thing. And so I look at all the different ones. I don't take them literally, and I purposefully mess with them, and I say, oh, it's really clear. So we're getting back that thing. And we're also doing that to ourselves because we're being so selective and being so enclosed. Ostrich people, we become ostrich people in little holes. But we're like this. We're holding the phone in front of you. Just hold your phone. Just play with it for a minute. You go along with me. Let's have a little game. If you want to, okay? It's your choice, right? It's your choice. You're in your special space. Here. hold it, right? That's what we're doing. We're looking at it. And then point out at the world around you. That's what we're doing. Point. And be agitated. And be afraid. And, you know, yeah, I do it too. We can't help it. That's what's happening. Because there's other factors. Because, like, the yes and no, I think, is pre-symbolic. Like, the yes and no. Like, if we're, and you can't speak, a baby, we pee and poo, we take in food, interacting in pluripresence in the lived world that we are a part of, that is happening through us, and we are through, we are the ocean in the drop, so to say. And it's moving through us in that. I mean, if I see food, I can say yes. My body sometimes could say yes or no to it before my mind went.
Yeah, right.
Before any symbolic. So there is this give and take going on. There is this constant energetic exchange that happens. So there's multi-levels of us understanding ourselves. So we are resonant beings, I really believe. And so there's a multi-tiered,
I agree.
So in one sense, you have like that layer of identity and that smooth surface of language, our karmic conceptual body that we have. And then, like I was saying before, there's a level of like we could also be experiencing at another level, maybe like illusory, dreamlike, the level of that which you dream. And if you could remember your dreams, or like think of what happens. It's not always what you want. Things are a little out, Like I was saying the other day, just like we could, close your eyes for a minute, just okay, open them again and feel your whole environment, feel and look at everything, visualize it, feel it like feel like it disappears or melts into light. Look at it, try and memorize it real quick, close your eyes and then try and see it. So we could continue to do that without that. You could feel your body here. I could feel you across from me. And I could imagine another version of me over there with my imagination. I could do it without a discursive language. It is another function of experience and our mind, right? Just like when someone is in a car and they look at you and then they look, and because everyone in our society, we are all monad strangers for the most part in urban areas, but we're kind of nice. We're like,
in our
hey,
own little shoots.
We're all like, hi, oh, I'm really fucking, sorry, I'm really scared of you, starry. That's the thing we're saying now, starry, because it goes from here all the way back up to our ancestors, back to the earth, and to make a roundabout even more roundabout. This really leads into the poetic, because we are working in the realm of symbols right now, and touching on other depths of our experiences. We all have moments of absolute clarity and peace in moments. Mm-hmm. Even if it is, we could go to the bathroom thing. You just, at that release, you're like, take a moment there. That might be a moment, because right there you've released something and you're like, we have that moment where we do feel really, but then our language is divisive, but language is, we have our numbers. We use our symbols to divvy up everything. Property is based off of symbols.
And how much of that is rooted in just pure fear? And that feeling of comfortability and of fullness comes in moments where that fear, that grip that it seems to have on all of us in some sort of way is like loosened, or we experience it as that. And like when I think about a baby, coming into the world, it's fucking scary, you know? You're just like here all of a sudden. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, what's going on? And, you know, just, you know, we both grew up, you know, in the same culture, not the same exact culture, but like, like broadly, yeah. And it's not exactly very comforting, you know? So it's like, you know, you come into this place scared, and, you know, there's not really much around when you look around, you know, that's just like, hey, you know, you don't really need to be scared. And so, and you know, and back to like how the language can just be these like these shields essentially, you know, to try to just like navigate through the space that we have to be in, you know, because we're alive and we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, you know, be able to get from like point A to point B, you know, whether that's like, you know, from here over by the beach, or, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere inside of myself, you know, or someone else's self, you know.
Right. I guess, yeah. Yeah, I feel you. Because I guess what it's making me feel right now is like there's these aspects sometimes. That's the thing. We all have had that type of trauma where we haven't really gotten to decide yes or no. It doesn't matter what we say.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter at all what we say at that point. And we could try and make up for it in some ways. And, I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we collectively have, I mean, I really hope we're developing the tools. Maybe no, I shouldn't, that's just two sides of things, hope and fear. So I'm stopping myself here. I think
But aren't they both necessary things, though?
But I'm putting them back in balance.
Yeah,
right here.
right,
I'm putting them
right.
back in balance and seeing that duality, and maybe I'll just lizard out in the middle. You know?
Yeah, just take some sun.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a little bit of sun, lizard out for a little bit, get warm, and recognize that we have the capacity. Just say we have the capacity now.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing it.
We don't have to be scared. That's the thing. Like,
well, sometimes,
you know,
but we don't have to hold on to it. It's like a good instinct. If a car is coming down the street and your instinct goes,
because we're fucking meat sacks, you know. If we get hit by a car, we're gonna, you know, it's not gonna feel good, and we got to recognize that, and that's where like the function of what we would, again, with our words, with the symbols, call fear, you know. But that's really something that's trying to like, it's something inside of us that's trying to like help us be safe, you know, in our bodies, and you know, that we have for this limited period of time, you know. But we put so much on that fear, on that feeling, it turns into this whole big thing that's, you know, and it's just like, it's not so much like, or rather maybe it's not so much just like this state that you just can like get trapped in, but it's like an indicator to be like, hey, car's coming, you know, move. It's like a train's whistle or something.
Right,
like, oh, okay, I should get off the tracks.
Right. No, I yeah. It's like no and yes and maybe and possibly. You know, like I've definitely had like serious issues of PTSD in my life. Okay, when I was 18 or 19, I thrashed a Walmart. High on who knows how much LSD. I thrashed that thing. I let loose the bouncy balls. I wanted to ride the bikes. I smashed the glass. I told everybody they needed to be free of this. This is nonsense. It's holding us apart. I've seen the light, everybody. And when you see the light, they come to kick your, you know, and I was supposed to have been banned from that corporation, for a while, and yeah, I don't know. So I have trauma for that, but you know, I remember being a young kid and seeing like, you know, early on, you know, my dad getting jumped in the street and his teeth knocked out. You know, so these things. I also remember playing with my little bounce ball and getting jumped from a ball. And so we have these memories. So like, I guess, yeah, a lot of different trauma. And so we develop these responses. And like, I guess little areas I could note of like real growth, you know, in myself, if I'm looking at those type of defenses, you know, because of certain inconsistencies growing up. I think like one thing I'm noticing better is like when I lose something, I'm getting better at being like, okay, well.
I thought you were going to say you're getting better at finding things.
No. No.
Yeah.
But guess what? Guess what? But also, actually, I do end up better at finding things as a
Right, yeah,
consequence
yeah,
of that.
totally.
As a consequence of that. So
Yeah.
I could recognize that. And I've,
Yeah.
and
I
I've,
can relate to that a lot.
I mean, geez. I mean, if I look, this last year, I was up on top of this mountain, and I just watched that giant fire, the largest fire ever in California. I watched it start with the lightning, the craziest lightning thing I'd have ever seen out there. And then, yeah, I watched that thing. I mean, I sat there.
What was it, like, over 2 months?
Almost.
Almost, yeah.
On top of this mountain, watching that. And yeah, process. How do I identify after that?
2 months. I want to be very clear. 2 months of time. 8 weeks. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah. And
How do you identify after that? What do you want to tell me I am after that? Or what would I tell myself I am after that?
yeah, but then, and here we are in a city, with things to do and places to be and people to see, and
I just had tacos.
yeah.
Tacos.
But you aren't a taco person, or like you're not like but
If someone was observing me lately, they could assume. It does happen. It is quick and affordable. And so so there are these definitions that cut across us, in terms of signifiers. Quick. So time, the relation to time and our experience of time and lived time and that control over time. You got to be on time for when, and there's different cycles of time, right? So if you're working on the land, you'll notice it moves throughout the year, and depending on what you're working with there and what you're trying to do, like if, in agriculture, you would see
different areas get different sunlight, different, parts of the year, different amounts of time.
Microclimates, the health of the environment in general.
Different plants are able to live in. I saw that when we went up, in the mountains the other day, and I was like switching up, zigzagging up, and it was like every single switchback up would have like different plant life, because like it gets a different amount of sun, and it will only be like vertically like 10 or 15 feet, above the other space, but they're just all the way up this mountain, 1,500 feet or 2,000 feet or something. It's just like there's all this different stuff, and there were consistencies, there were plants and trees that were there the whole way through, but there were certain things that were able to exist, and not just exist, but like thrive in certain aspects, of what we would call time, and that got me thinking about that being like, I mean, because we get, sunlight, moonlight, whatever, and in a similar sort of way. But, like, speaking for myself, I never thought of, I don't know, like, so much of my life I was separate from all of it. I'm just here in this thing that, like, is going on outside of me, and it doesn't have anything to do with how I am feeling, and how I am feeling doesn't have anything to do with what's going on, quote, like outside of me, but then seeing that as an example, just with like the different plant life on that mountain, and being like, oh, like, I mean, like I was saying, I was talking to my brother the other, just yesterday, and it's like 20 degrees, on the other side of the country, and being here, it's not, let that one thing fly by.
I know this part of the country has other issues, the fires,
but like physically, and like what, because there's that's the thing, there's versions of that, there's every place is a place, but just like the conditions, the physical, like
the big bubble's in trouble. We're in a little bubble. We're all in our little hothouse foam bubbles on the foam. We're in our little bubbles, but the big bubble is in trouble.
Well, but how much? So like, I don't know. I just been thinking how much like yeah, just our environments, not just like our like geographical environments, but like who we are around, who we interact with, like the things that we do.
Oh yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like especially, and then talk about the phones and stuff. Like I mean, I just like yeah, just I have food poisoning the other day, and just like it completely like gave me a chance to, or that experience completely gave me a chance to reevaluate like my body's diet of like food and things along those lines. And I think we're in a time now where our like we have other aspects of our diet to account for um, in different ways, you know, beyond just like what we eat and what we drink. You know, it's particularly with like the phones and the internet and stuff like that.
Oh, right.
Like our informational diet and our
Yeah.
social diet and our environmental diet. You know, those sorts of things. I personally never thought about those as actually you know, it's just like, and even food, like up until literally the other day, it's just like, I need to eat something, so I'm gonna, am I hungry right now? It doesn't matter. I
Right.
should eat something, I'll be hungry later or whatever.
Right.
You know,
We
it
have.
doesn't matter what, I
Right.
just should eat because eating, you know. But same with, you know, with the phone, you open a thing, you know, open the screen up, and then just like, are you being intentional with what you're letting in, you know, with what's getting in there, because that's gonna like affect us on some sort of level, you know.
Right. I guess you're saying, yeah. Like, I guess, yeah, yeah. What I'm feeling from you, you could correct me. It's like in our lived pluripresence now. On one level, we have like our organic, you know, our organic experience. And you know, if we're taking and we start to have a diet or maybe a lived ecology or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to
a,
put it.
a living. We participate
In the ecosystem
in a
that
lived
we,
ecology, but you know, then there's one. But then and in that ecosystem, and then there would also be, I guess, our symbolic or our synthetic ecosystem that we're also working across, which affects. But it's also like I like that saying, like we're the creatures that shape the world that shapes us. So we do have, we are impacting right here. Our you know, you saying that changed the direction
yeah.
of the conversation, and I was willing to go with it. And so I think that, you know, maybe a living participatory, and it's emergent too. It's coming together like a flock of birds as we're moving. I think that's necessary as we continue and develop and grow our experience.
That's making me think about, I think something you said to me one day was just like, just jump into the void, you know, without, and like something I've thought about a lot, but you know, you don't have rope, you
Yeah.
know, and the void is fear, you know, or what we would use the word fear to try to describe, you know. And I don't know who wrote it down. I'm sure a bunch of people, but it's like that void, you jump into that unknown, you know, metaphorically speaking, and it's not an endless pit with spikes at the bottom, you know. It's gonna float or fly or land in something fluffy, and then that makes me think about, like yesterday, you know, we were talking about the geese, you know, some reason, you know, a huge, what is it, a gongle of geese is what they call yeah, you know, a gongle of geese knows how to fly, and you know, and a big giant V, you know, and just like all together. And I'm sure that there's like, you know, practical reasons for that, you know, for that like formation and that, you know, like collective behavior. But you know, we know it's like in us, you know. But that barrier, that fear barrier, keeps us in like containers, in our own little containers, away from each other, and away from not just each other as in like other people, but like just the whole universe that we're in, undeniably, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I guess, you know, I'm like, yeah, I feel you, and like, what would be like, for some reason, I'm remembering the Stanley Milgram study, Obedience to Authority. It's this thing, the thing that's coming to my mind.
I'm not aware of that. What was it?
I think it was done at Yale. Okay, so I don't remember the years. I think I'd gotten the book from the library, and But they had a paid actor pretend that they were being shocked. And then they were separated with an authority figure, the scientist, the symbol of authority, the scientist was there with them. And, you know, he's got the checkboard. This probably got to be the 60s, you know. So he's got to check. He's checking everything off, and so and there's little knobs that they press. It wouldn't be as easy it would be now. You could just press your button. You could do it from your comfort of your own home, and you could shock somebody right now. You could probably sign up on WeShock. Let's set it up. WeShock for everybody. And you could have it set up on your phone, so it just gives you a little vibration that you'll feel something.
They have vibrators like that.
There you go.
For the other spectrum of feelings.
Yeah, all type of feelings.
But anyway, so the study.
Okay, so back to the study. But the actor was pretending to be shocked, and people were shocking this. They were shocking this. This is a good actor. This is Yale, so this is a good actor. And they were like separated by glass, and almost everybody did it. I think there was like a janitor or somebody else who wouldn't do it. There's like a moral objector, but amongst us there are few. And so I don't know. It's like it's hard to go against the herd if you feel it's something right, because you know it's I don't know. We act people. I think it's fear. You have less fear if you don't care. Like if people like you per se, if you're moving from other sorts of principles, you won't have as for myself. So that's what I don't know the explanation, but I imagine this person had principles, this janitor, that were not congruent with the principles that placed the authority there. He did not recognize that authority. So you could have other principles that don't move with an authority. I live that way, and so. So they shocked this, but there was a thing that happened when they removed the distance between the people. They removed the distance, like you can fist bump me, boom, right? That, okay? They removed the distance, and you couldn't, like, people started being unable to shock, because you could feel, because
all of a sudden you're not alone in it. Like, in a sense, there's the authority figure, but like, would, the affected aspect of, whatever the scenario may be.
And we're at a point where we pretty much self-police ourselves.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's
the sad part.
I don't even know. I never even read the book because I was just like, I'm already in it. Like, but 1984, it's just like we are Big Brother. Like we police ourselves, get those things and our ideas, are in our minds, and then, back. I think it just gets people in, feeling alone and in our own little containers, and in that feeling of aloneness, it's much more difficult to step forward within that and participate and collaborate and even establish principles, because if as most of us experienced just early on, almost first thing coming into this physical realm, like you said, it's it doesn't matter what you want or how you feel or what you think, it's gonna be like this right now, and that doesn't really give. That is absolutely not an invitation for somebody to to establish and understand any sorts of common principles or collective sorts of understandings or agreements. With where are we here? And
well, there's a point when I lived. I'm going to keep my identity slightly obscure, but I lived in a major city in California, and was with a activist musician group, and I remember we definitely did a lot of work around the concept of decolonizing the imagination. And I feel like it was a new concept to me at that point, and I still am grappling with it in some sort, in a sense, but amazing improvising trio. But it was called the Mutual Aid Project Trio, and then Yeah, in that work, how I look at it now, and in that research, is like research, we're like looking and you start thinking about this. What could that mean? Is I think that's what we're saying here. We're all, maybe some people were subjected and colonized, you know, like the authority that's there, right? We're all struggling with that authority now, aren't we? You know, the thing is like, we are all the colonizers have colonized themselves. We're all colonized at this point. And so, but by decolonizing the imagination, like, you know, I remember, you know, it's almost like thinking in a physical world. It's like the Maroons. I remember at a point working or performing along with a book release of Russell Maroon Shoat's Maroon the Implacable. And these are letters of his smuggled out of prison by anarchists. And this was a performance in Oakland. And you know, he talked about the Maroon groups in the United States. So when they were kind of, you know, escaped slaves, people who escaped. Like there's still Maroons in Suriname. That would be an easy place where you could find Maroons who existed to this day. And like in the Dismal Swamp in Virginia and North Carolina, there's a Maroon group there, which like on the interior were the indigenous people. And the Africans who had been brought over, but there were also indentured servants, Scots, Irish, who worked on the exterior, who were actually with that group because they had come under bad terms too. So, but they were able to trade. They could interact in society without being caught at that point. You know, and you know, but then yeah, in Suriname, you know, people escape. But so even for our thought. You know, like if our thought can move. And when our thought escapes, it's poetic. It flows. It grows. It shows. It glows. It knows. So that aspect that comes about in rhythm and rhyme, enunciation, vibration that we get through our ears, eyes, nose, tongue, body, mind, sight, sound, smell, touch, and all sensation. It glistens through experience if we listen and we're hearing it. There's nowhere else to go. It's here, right within you. Stop fearing it. And the nonsense that held us captive. Let's snip the cord, break our chains, we're clearing it. And so that dimension of being able to go into the poetic, what opens up with language, because we're here working with language, but we know there's these things with our bodies. But that's the thing, all of us feel that pressure with our bodies. The environment, you know, I mean, like, you know, people, I mean, there is a reason for us to be a little scared, I think, and there's, but then within that, how are we dealing with, you know, how do we process that? Do we, because maybe trauma is, you know, maybe there is something. This world can be rough. I know in a Buddhist sense, sometimes it could be translated as endurance, you know? This aha world of endurance. Because you have to endure, you know, trials and tribulations. And there's challenges and decisions that come up in life. And I don't know, I think we need to have the courage to make them too, you know? To get,
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Agreed. Because we're moving forward whether we like it or not. We're in a river that's flowing, right. You know, and yeah. So how are we going to move forward?
Right. You know, I just have a strong pessimist streak, so I've told you this analogy before. You know, but I'm having fun with it all. It's like, you know the proverbial fan. You know. And that turd has hit it. But we're watching. And see, time is dilated and it's changed and it's moving in slow motion because of the rate at which we're experiencing. It's coming. But that's like, I don't know if that's true, but that's how a lot of us feel maybe in a way. We just feel it all slow. There's a slow anxiety and then it's breaking. We were noticing the other day, you said there's like a break in the experience of the world around us. someone was in the street with the helmet on singing.
Just dancing around, throwing paper. I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, I've been running around like with it's go out and try and give somebody $1. Well, you gotta, I don't know, I look a little dirty and a little crazy. So look a little dirty and look a little crazy and try and give somebody $1 and just see what happens. It's really, they really get really horrified. Or walk and drop it. It's okay, you're gonna most likely get it back. And it's only one. And if someone really needs it when you give it, that's wonderful. Then you're giving to somebody. And that's showing. We maybe need, to be generous with it. But let's just be generous. But when you're generous in the world and you do that with that, why does it promote so much terror? It's almost the same face I was talking about before. You hold up your phone and you're pointing. And that pointing look, that was the same thing when I dropped $1. More than half of the people make that same look. They drop the phone, and instead of looking, but they do the point as it drops. And it's like, there's some magic in there. There's a fetish in there. And we're swirling around, and it's not our fault, but we're in a symbolic maze, and it's a little muddy.
And there's also the unfamiliar, back to the beginning of this conversation. It's like what's unknown and unfamiliar. People are, like, oh, I don't know about, like, what is that? And points, but yeah, I like that, because that's,
decadence.
Speaking of going forward, like, that's a compassionate way, it's just like just a little thing, and like, if we're gonna move forward regardless, we should try to move forward, out of love, or in love, definitely not out of love, but move forward with love and in love. And
I was just gifted a symbolic casket by someone I do love. Sometimes I've struggled with that fact as well. But not even for that purpose that it sounds like it could be intended for. But for use, it was being used for like a type of grief ritual, and it had this heart on it. And I don't know, it's like I've been thinking of walking around with it. And I have a few games to play. I can't reveal my games exactly, because then somebody else, But just to walk around with it a little bit.
That's one thing. It's like, it's okay to play games. Like, no, like we're literally told, like, fuck, stop playing games. Like, you gotta be serious. You gotta do some serious shit, But it's like, but it's okay to keep playing games. Like,
but this is a casket with a heart, and it's like going around, is love dead? Is love dead? Is love dead? And then you open it up, okay? So is love dead? Is it not? And then most people are going to be like, and run. But what if someone actually engages in the idea? And that's the thing. And then that's all it takes sometimes. If you want everybody to go on the picnic, someone's got to be enthusiastic about going on the picnic.
What did like Ram Dass talk about, like when they were up in New York, just like tripping on acid all the time? It's like, somebody's got to do dishes, man. It's like somebody's got to, or else everything's gonna fall apart, and nobody wants that.
No, exactly. Someone's got to do the dishes. I've been doing the dishes lately.
Yeah, it feels good. Me too. Yeah. That's what all the food poisoning stuff like really motivated me to do. I was like, oh, I get to do dishes. Mm-hmm. I get to like take care of my body and and have energy and.
Yeah, I admire you for that. I'm lazy.
well,
I'm just like, wow.
Well, we got on.
I'm like, let me just.
What were you gonna say?
I lost it. And I'm gonna let it fly away.
Yeah,
like a bird in flight.
We've been going for about an hour.
Holy smoly!
And I was thinking before I came over here, I was like, oh, it'd be kind of nice, once when we decide to stop this episode, just like, yeah, just want to ask if there's just something that comes to mind that you're just grateful for in particular right now, or a couple of things or something.
Yeah. I think this year, I think for a lot of us has put Now, let me just speak for myself. It definitely has put into perspective values, really what I want to, live for and do. And so in a way, I'm grateful for even the difficult situations that have shaped me and my character. I'm grateful for the teachers that I've had. I've had a load of great Sifus, Rinpoches, teachers, plain old teachers, friends who are my teachers. I learn from my friends. The world around me is a teacher, and right? If you have even if someone has a pet, they're their teacher. I'm grateful. I'm grateful to still be here. There's a few times that it almost slips away, and it could at any moment. That's the thing, and so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful that for we have food, we have this wonderful life, and I'm grateful that I know at this point that courage is important, and that we should really just I mean I guess I was opening in a way where ideas were like that I want everyone to play in their own way, and everyone should. It doesn't matter what I want. It's what's going on in you and how you're transforming it, but we're together here. And we need to work together. And I feel grateful in that I see that as a possibility now. I feel grateful that I see us working together. We get over our boundaries. We're going to make this happen. We're going to work together. We're smart. Let's not be caught in outdated models. Whether there's so much of this win or lose in the culture. We should just do like Samuel Beckett, fail again, fail better, and enjoy it. And let's have fun. Let's enjoy it. I'm grateful that we should have fun for this ride. It doesn't have to be a gloomy doomy. I mean, we need to feel the doom and sometimes just and beast out and Thor out and do whatever you need to do, and go into those dark corners. We need to recognize our shadows. I'm grateful that I could recognize my shadows. I'm glad I could face the dark parts of myself. I'm glad I've accepted that. I'm glad and recognizing my boundaries, but also being forgiving. I'm grateful for being forgiven for things and my trespasses against others for not being perfect. I'm grateful to my parents. I'm grateful to even the imperfect communities that raised me, because there are people who helped me all along the way. And there have been people who helped me my whole life. And it's not just people, it's the environment, it's the land we lived in. Is part of this. So I'm just grateful. And I was saying there's a thing of hope and fear, but I'm feeling something even. It's not just necessity, because that implies like, the scary weakness. It's just strength. I'm grateful for the strength I feel and I see in so many people around me, and I'm also really grateful for that playful mood I see coming out of everybody. Go out there and have fun, you motherfuckers.
I'm grateful for you, Lord Princess. Yeah, I appreciate this. Love you.
Love you too.
Well, thanks everybody for listening and directing your attention tendrils towards this node of the multiverse, the universes of multi, the unimult, the multi-un, I don't know, whatever, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful, grateful for you, grateful for Lord Princess, our guest today. And by the way, the music at the beginning of this podcast, in the middle, and what's about to be played at the end is Lord Princess and myself is improvising a little by the beach with intention to share in this podcast with y'all. So again, thanks for listening, and I hope you have a great week, and just, lots of smiles, lots of love. Take care.
I be taking, we be taking, all taking off. That is your wheels, your spokes, taking your bike, boy. what you get for free. What just comes spontaneously as like, it's like milk. What you ask for like water, what you take like yes, it's like blood. And that's his army. That we talk about the balance is returning, and we is his feet take the lid off the container, cause we pop it out.